On October 26, 2003, the city of Boulder, Nevada, experienced a chilling scene that even the most pessimistic would never have anticipated in this quiet town just about 25 miles from Las Vegas. Local residents discovered the body of a young man in a dry desert lake. The body was in an advanced state of decomposition, suggesting that the victim had been dead for several days or possibly weeks. The severely disfigured corpse caused panic among locals, who immediately contacted law enforcement. Authorities dispatched police units to the crime scene, and investigators began expanding their search and digging in recently disturbed areas. This led to the discovery of additional evidence related to the crime. Investigators found a burned pile near the grave, where it appeared the perpetrator had attempted to destroy some evidence. They were able to identify some jeans buttons and empty alcohol bottles, as well as a Nevada driver's license. All available evidence from the crime scene, along with the disfigured body, was collected and transported to the forensic lab in an attempt to determine the victim's identity and cause of death. Who was the young man who ended up lifeless in the Nevada desert? What are the details of this strange crime? Will investigators eventually solve the mystery? Several days after the body was found, the forensic lab issued an autopsy report indicating that the victim had died about 2 weeks prior. The report noted that the victim was a white male in his early 20s, but it did not provide any information about his identity. It also mentioned that the body had been disfigured, with the lower part of the victim's face obscured and most of his teeth removed, leading investigators to believe the perpetrator was trying to conceal the victim's identity and make identification impossible. Regarding the cause of death, forensic experts found remnants of a plastic bullet casing from a .20 caliber pistol in the victim's body, which allowed investigators to identify the murder weapon. Investigators attempted to identify the victim through fingerprint matching with the national database, but to no avail. They then turned to reviewing missing persons reports from the area and surrounding regions. They soon noticed a report from October 16th of the same year concerning an 18-year-old white male named Jared Wiley, a high school student. Patricia Knight, the victim's mother, was called in after she had reported the disappearance at the police station. The investigators requested the victim's dental records from her. On February 12th, forensic experts were able to confirm the victim's identity as Jared while using the dental records. Jared was born in Glendale, California, and later moved with his family to Las Vegas. Jared was a well-liked young man who enjoyed car mechanics, sports, and dreamed of joining the Marine Corps. He was very close to his family and had no known enemies. He got along well with everyone, whether at school or in the neighborhood. Patricia, Jared's mother, told the investigators that she had enlisted several non-governmental organizations to help find Jared after his sudden disappearance, mentioning specifically an organization called Zacro, which distributed flyers and posters to local businesses and bars. Patricia also mentioned that several young people from the Zacro organization visited her home multiple times to inquire about Jared and check if he had returned home. The case became more complex for the investigators based on the information gathered from those close to the victim, as they found no sufficient motive for anyone to end Jared's life. They began to speculate that the young man might have fallen victim to a serial killer or a random act of violence. The investigators started searching the neighborhood where Jared's family lived for any clues that might lead to the truth, but found nothing. They then moved on to inspect Silverado High School in Las Vegas, where the victim was enrolled, and met some of Jared's close friends there. The investigators noticed that members of the Zacro organization mentioned by Jared's mother were also students at the same school, and some were Jared's friends. One of them told the police that Jared had spent the night before his disappearance at an outdoor party location called The Hill. The party location mentioned by the young man was situated on a high hill in Las Vegas. The investigators examined the hill, suspecting that the crime might have been committed there before Jared was transported to Boulder and buried. However, after hours of exhaustive searching, the investigators failed to find any evidence or leads pointing to the perpetrator. The investigators found their first lead in the case when they learned that one of Zacro's friends was a young man named Matt Baker, who had a reputation for violence. Several of his peers noted that recently he had boasted about beating up a student named Jamal. When Matt was interrogated, he denied the altercation and claimed not to know anyone by that name. This lead focused the investigators' attention on the Zacro group, particularly since they were the last to see Jared at the party on October 14th before his sudden disappearance. Their unprecedented interest in the young man's disappearance, along with their efforts to gather information from the victim's mother, further piqued their curiosity. The investigators conducted inquiries into the group, which included Matt Baker, the Myers brothers Shane and Cody, Stephen Stringfield, and Shane Johnson. All were close in age to the victim. The investigators discovered that the group had chosen their name based on their obsession with Mafia movies. As the facts about the group began to emerge, it became clear that they were involved in activities similar to those of Mafia gangs. They were involved in petty crimes like stealing beer bottles from local stores and engaging in acts of vandalism. However, none of these minor crimes led to their arrest or formal charges. After gathering sufficient information, the investigators began interrogating the group members. During a visit to Shane and Cody Myers' home for questioning, they noticed a gun cabinet. What was peculiar was that all the firearms in the cabinet were dusty, except for a .20 caliber pistol, which appeared to have been recently used, cleaned, and organized. Initially, the brothers attempted to evade questions, but with pressure from the investigators, Shane confessed that the pistol had been used to shoot Jared, though he did not provide details about the horrific crime. Following this, most of the group members were arrested and interrogated individually. Through these interrogations, the investigators learned that Matt Baker was the group's leader and acted as a father figure to its members. The group members revealed that they had initially been close friends with Jared, but he had tried to sever ties with them when he discovered that Matt had started dealing drugs. Matt, whose obsession with Mafia movies had driven him to madness, feared that Jared might inform the police about him. So he began planning to end Jared's life and came up with several proposals to carry out the act. Initially, Matt tried to poison Jared with pure nicotine and eye drops, adding these substances to the young man's food and drink. However, this only caused Jared to feel unwell. When he was taken to the hospital, doctors were able to fully treat him. Following this, Matt decided to change his approach and confront Jared directly. With the help of his group, he dug a grave in the Nevada desert about 2 weeks before the crime. They lured Jared to the party on the night before his murder, took him to the designated burial site, and nearly everyone participated in ending his life. Johnson and Ailey attacked him with a stun gun, while Shane Myers beat him with a metal rod. Matt's role involved shooting Jared twice from close range. Afterwards, the group removed Jared's clothes and burned them along with any remaining evidence. Before burying the body, they violently and brutally beat Jared in an attempt to erase his features and hide his identity. Investigators later discovered that the name Jamal, which Matt had boasted about hitting, was merely a code name for Jared. They also found that the group couldn't locate the prepared grave, so they improvised and buried him in a dry desert lake, which led to the body being eventually discovered by some locals. Based on these detailed confessions, the group members were tried on November 3, 2006, and were convicted of various charges according to their roles in the crime. Stephen Greenfield received a 6-month prison sentence for not participating in the violence against the victim. Cody Myers was sentenced to 5 years for his involvement in the murder, as he had provided the murder weapon. Shane Johnson received a 20-year sentence for first-degree murder, while Shane Myers was sentenced to 25 years for the same charge. Matt Baker, the man who pulled the trigger and ended the victim's life, was sentenced to 35 years for first-degree murder and kidnapping. Given the details of this bizarre crime, do you think that films and artistic works could affect young people to the extent of leading them to commit such a heinous crime?